introduce ourselves. I'm Yvonne Weed. I am Marta and Toney's oldest daughter. Some of you have never met me. This is my husband, Bob, and my two lovely children, Patricia Ann Weed and Logan Locklear Weed, who turned 10 on Thursday. So, you know.
Hello, I'm Danette Alpern, and this is my son Dylan and my husband Adam by the equipment there. I'm the middle child.
Hello, my name is Margot Marie Locklear Jessup. I'm the youngest, and this is my husband David.
And so first and foremost, we'd like to welcome everyone for coming. We really appreciate everyone coming and celebrating our parents' Ruby anniversary. We have people here from Florida, Virginia, the Carolinas, New York. So I guess some people kind of sort of like you guys. Florida's in the house. South Carolina. I also wanted to remind everyone who maybe hasn't seen it in the lobby area, we do have the guest book with the Polaroid pictures. Yes, it is a Polaroid camera. They still exist. Thanks to my father-in-law, who does throw nothing away. It is available, and we'd like everyone in groups to take pictures and then sign the book. And if you haven't done that, please do that before the end of the evening, before you leave. Also wanted to mention on your tables, you have 3 cards that say 1968. Our sister Margot did a lovely job of putting together some interesting factoids. Each card is different, so you can read those. Some are about Toney, some are about Toney and Marta, some are about the year 1968. Now, since we have people here from so many phases of our parents' lives, what we've put together, and we hope we don't bore you to tears, is kind of a little summary or history of the story that is Marta and Toney. Like it or not.
Okay. So I wanted to start out and talk about, go back, because Yvonne said, in some history and some time here. So imagine, March 27th, 1940. Toney Locklear, yes, Toney, and spelled Toney, Toney, not Anthony, but Toney Locklear was born in a small town called Lumberton, North Carolina. At the time, it was the segregated South. He is a Native American from the Lumbee tribe. Toney was born at the home. This is a picture of Dad with his siblings, more recent, on the front porch of Grandma's house. He's the 4th child of Odell and Sadie Locklear. They were tobacco and cotton farmers. Sadie and Odell ultimately had 15 children. You saw that picture earlier. That's 13 of the 15 that are living. Bread at the time was 8 cents a loaf, and milk was 34 cents a gallon. But these people did not care because they did not go to the grocery store. Also, in 1940, FDR was president. The first McDonald's hamburger stand opened in Pasadena, California. The first Social Security benefit checks were paid out in January 30th of that year. Some other costs in 1940, the cost of first-class stamp was 3 cents. A car was $800. Gasoline was 18 cents a gallon. A house was $6,550. Average annual salary was $1,900, and the minimum wage was 30 cents per hour.
A little bit of history about Mom. Marta was born on January 3rd, 1941, in a place that totally may have just been another planet from Lumberton. Marta de Lourdes Tamargo was born in Havana, Cuba. Picture an apartment building, picture wide boulevards, the ocean crashing in the background, and palm trees. Not exactly tobacco fields. She was drinking cafe con leche. Not exactly, well, yeah, the shine. But you know, they did have some things in common. Mom was rocking it out in a couple of years to her Elvis 45, as I recall it was red. And she was one of 7 kids. And of course, it's Cuba, Havana, in the 40s and the 50s, so it wasn't just her 6 brothers and sisters, it were the cousins. So they would go out in groups. Couple of things about Cuba in 1941. Batista was president. Cuba entered World War II in December that year, shortly after the U.S. And I think all this context, you know that life is a little bit different. So the secret is now out. Toney married a foreigner.
So they each grew up in very different environments and socioeconomic situations. One working in the fields, one going to dances in private schools, and I'll let y'all guess which is which.
In 1960, with the help of her great aunt, Nana, mother left Cuba to come to the U.S., and she winds up in Reno, Nevada. Now, one little thing she doesn't always talk about is Mom she did some sneaky things on her way over here. It wasn't like she just followed all the rules. She had a lined jacket, and she put all the valuables in there. So she had some silver. She had some things that she could have changed, like stamps and things for U.S. dollars. And if you know anything about Mom, you won't be too surprised that her most important treasure at that moment were as many pictures as she could take. Ultimately, though, she's in Reno, Nevada, and it's a little bit different. Mom skis for the first time. And the first time she sees snow, actually. So she's... ultimately, she ends up in Washington, D.C. area. Recall that Mom grew up surrounded by green and blues of the ocean. And she's in Reno, and it's like brown. So she comes out for a visit, and she was going to go back, had a whole life planned out. And she sees the flowers of D.C. at springtime and all the green, and she decided to stay.
Meanwhile, back on the farm, Toney decided to head north for work. He ultimately landed in the Washington, D.C. area as well. And at the time, he was sharing an apartment with his 2 sisters. In 1960s... Oh, yeah.
They stole my thunder.
Yeah.
Get a load of those legs, ladies. Let me tell you. You know what Marta was, Let me tell you.
In 1966, they met at a pool party at the apartment where they were introduced by Toney's sisters, Alice and Mary.
And finally, the day we are celebrating. On August 10th, 1968, Marta and Toney were married in Bladensburg, Maryland. It was a small wedding. Oh.
That's okay. It was a small wedding. The reception was held in a church in the basement hall of the church. They didn't have a DJ. A friend of theirs brought a radio. Dad's brother, Rodney Locklear, was the best man.
Carmen Gonzalez, Marta's sister, was supposed to be the maid of honor, but big surprise, are y'all sitting for this? She was late. So Sonia Lantigua, her beloved cousin, stood up for her at the wedding. As an aside, growing up, I thought potato salad was dessert. So that's the picture here. Now, really, we're celebrating their wedding, but let's talk about the happiest day of their life. The day that any parent just is the ultimate, It could just end it right there. January 21st, 1969, they gave birth to their first child. Which, let's face it, that was the happiest and most fulfilling day of their entire lives. And so that's the end of our story.
No, I don't think so. Hand me that mic, you fine. No, the happiest day of their life was September 23rd, 1974, when their middle child, Danette Marie Locklear, was born.
My sisters are sweet, but they're foolish. Clearly, the happiest day of their lives was August 22nd, 1975, the day their third and last daughter, Margot Marie Locklear, was born. And after me, it's perfection. No need to continue. Now, you may have noticed something as we've been going through all this. We all have the same middle name, Marie. And no, it isn't a lack of creativity on Mom's part. It was, in fact, she knew that we would all eventually grow up and get married. And
Betting on that.
yeah, she was hoping, really. And certain years, she wasn't too sure. She wanted to make sure that we would be linked in some way with the name.
So there have been many happy times and not so happy times, graduations, and speaking for myself, some almost not graduations. I did ultimately graduate. Weddings and funerals, many trips, long and short, many gardens worked and many rocks picked. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of wood cut. But in all honesty, there are 3 dates, all kidding aside, that we do think are the most important dates to Marta and Toney. The first being August 7th, 1998, the date that their first grandchildren were born, Patricia and Logan.
And then 2 more dates. November 28th, 2007, the date that their third grandchild, Dylan Maxwell Alpern, was born. And on March 25th, 2008, when Dylan joined our family.
And even though Marta and Toney are from very different worlds, opposites attract and all that, they had many things in common. They both believe the ocean can cure anything. I don't care what's wrong with you, go swim in the ocean, it will take care of it. Your legs don't work, just get in the ocean. Poison ivy, just get in the ocean. You got an ear infection, just get in the ocean. And they both have that. I mean, Lumberton, North Carolina, Havana, Cuba. That is an absolute fact. Oh, and rice with every meal.
It was a staple in our house. More on the sentimental part of this is Dad and Mom, they both taught us, all 3 of us, very strong values. Love one another, take care of each other, and help each other, even after they're gone. They are both very hard workers, and they really instilled that in all 3 of us. Dad never called out sick. No. In the winter, when they were calling for snow, he left a car at the end of our driveway. And I know not everyone knows, but a majority know, the driveway was a half a mile long. And he would leave a car at the end of the driveway and carry a shovel with him to walk the driveway in the deep snow. That way he would never miss work. One time it was really bad weather, it was icy, and Woodbine, the town they live in, it's a really big hill as you go across the tracks, and you end up in the Woodbine ends on the other side of the tracks. Well, at any rate, one time in the ice, he slid with his truck, his precious truck, down the Woodbine Hill. Kept going over the railroad tracks, over the hump, and landed into the Woodbine Inn, but didn't actually hit the building, but landed in their parking lot. And most of us, including myself, would have turned around and gone home. No, Toney Locklear, he kept going and made it to Giant that day. He kept going. I'm not too many of you may or may not know this or know about Dad. He has a lot of stories. He likes to tell stories. The Toney stories. Hey, yeah. In our family, these stories became very famous. They were the Giant stories because as he would come home from work and Mom, would have us at the dinner table and everything, and almost every night he would come home and say, "Marta, guess what happened at Giant today?"
No, that's not true.
Yeah. It was pretty much almost every night. And we would listen to these stories. And some of you, I'm sure, have heard these stories at family gatherings and other functions. But we heard them every night.
Sometimes the same story.
Yeah, sometimes over and over again. Dad loved working. But what made it special was not only the stories, but because of the stories, it became part of our family, the Giant family. Toney retired from Giant Food after 32 years. Marta delivered newspapers while being a stay-at-home mom with us. And she returned to work when actually Margot and I were in elementary school. Yeah. And she retired from it today after 20 years of government service. And in the house, if you've probably noticed, we have a couple tables of Giant and also some FDA folks.
Another kind of value that Mom and Dad taught us, two really, they're kind of combined. Parents are in charge, one. Two, the world is there for you to explore. So one of the very critical things, when we were growing up were the family vacations. And I would say about 80% of them were spent camping. And generally we went to one of three locations: North Carolina, Florida, or like Virginia in the camper. We can't count how many RV shows we went to because, as you can see, that's a little bit of an ancient camper. I think it was 1961, 60 Wards, I think. But did they ever buy one? Not until we all left. But anyway.
And they have money. They can
Exactly.
But every year they asked us, where do you want to go on vacation?
Yeah.
And Margaret said New York. I said California. We're going to Florida.
We're going for it. So that was the thing. Parents are in charge. You all can vote. We'll let you think you have a say. But we're going to Florida, North Carolina, or camping. And there were also those Sunday drives. We went everywhere on the Sunday drives. The same, and but somehow, you could be in Pennsylvania, you could be at the ocean, but invariably, you went by the old house. So I saw Innkeeper, College Park. I felt like I lived there, even though I left most of them before I was 2. So with that said, we'll now like to show a highlight of some pictures from Mom and Dad over their 40 years.